So we'd like to make it succinct and give you some objectives. So this conversation, we have about 30 minutes. These are our objectives. I realize that they're very ambitious. I am going to just breeze through some of them. You can study them on your own, alhamdulillah. But these are salient, necessary, wajib, if you will, points in order for us to come to this place, inshallah. So the first one is to state your intentions. Always, whenever you go somewhere, anywhere, you're going to do a class, always ask yourself, what do I want to get out of this? All right, that's number one. The next one is look at the bigger picture. Of course, we're going to teach you ways and talk about things that you should or shouldn't do, like Sister Mariam said, things about girls and teaching them that it's not focused on their bodies, rather internal things. And for the boys, how to treat their sisters by the father mirroring what he wants his sons and so forth. But we want to go and look at the bigger picture, to add to that, the bigger picture. Decide what's important. Why are we even here? Why does it even matter that we're even having this symposium? And then we want to decide what's, we did that, and look at what's the causes of pieces. What makes things fall apart in your home? All right, next slide, please. Okay, so your intentions. My intention, this is my intention, how to unleash the Muhammad in me, how to unleash the Khadija in me, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How do we do that? How do we connect? Because all of us know the hadiths, right? We know the prophet was kinder. If somebody was harsh and mean to him, he was still kind. If somebody showed him hatred, he was still kind. And we don't have time to get into the ayats, right? I mean, the hadiths about that, but we all know them. But yet we know that information, and then when somebody's nasty and rude, we retaliate. How do we do that? Okay, so I think we need to find a way to how to unleash the Muhammad in ourselves. The next slide, please. And so that means that we have to decide what we are willing to change. And I would say to you today, write it down on your papers. Say, I am willing to change, fill in the blank, in order to make my house a more peaceful place. Next slide. So the next thing we said, objectives. We're going to, each objective, obviously we can talk about them at length. But the next point of objectives is the bigger picture. And I wrote some notes. Let's see what I write here. Okay, oh, good. Okay, so the bigger picture, I'm having some technical difficulties. I have to go by memory now. So the bigger picture is to see ourselves in more than just this space in this family, number one. The second bigger picture is to realize that this place is a temporary place that we're in, this dunya, right? There's a place that we're going besides this place. And then remembering that, to know that this place has two conditions that we can't change. One is that nothing's perfect, and that it's fleeting. So that nice white suit you have, it ain't gonna always be white. If you're the prettiest, not always. If you got that flat belly, oops, you got old and forgot to exercise. And if you get some, our grandparents, they used to put plastic on the furniture. Well, that starts cracking, right? And then it's fleeting, it's always changing, and it's never perfect. And Allah said if He gives us by merit, the face of the earth will be empty. So that means nobody's perfect. So it's that perfect for the girls, we need to just let it go if we can. Or put it if you just can't let it go, put it in a box and separate yourself from it and then go back if you just gotta have it. Go back and get it. All right? So the bigger picture is also to know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that He's created us to worship Him, jinn and men. Matter of fact, the way the ayah goes, Allah says no first. So that means you can't even come up with another reason. He said, but I know for no reason except this. So we can't even make it, Qadis, the scholars in Islam can't even extract from that ayat anything else, but this is why we're supposed to be here to worship Him, right? And then another bigger picture. Can you give me the next slide? Another bigger picture is to revisit yourself on a regular basis. Like Tawheed. What is Tawheed? Next slide. We're going to have to go past this. This is This is Tawheed. Remember these things. Read them in Arabic if you know Arabic, but go to your native language and read what the definition is of Tawheed in that language, because you keep recentering yourself. If you're a practitioner, medical practitioners, nurses, and doctors, we have to take continuing education credits. Teachers, you can't just graduate, get your license, and you're out to practice and never be revisiting any kind of information. So revisit what Tawheed is. Revisit the Shahada. These are the conditions. These are the conditions of the Shahada. All these conditions. You got to love Allah more than anything. You have to be truthful. You have to be sincere. Go to the next slide. And so this is just information. That's on your slides. You'll have it. We won't go over these. So the 7 conditions of Shahada. Do that. The bigger picture is I'm coming with something. I stand for something. So even though I'm in this situation in my life and my family that my husband is abusive, not mine, alhamdulillah, or my wife is whatever, go back to that, because that gives you strength. When you remember Allah, He loves it when we remember Him. And He elevates us. And He says He's behind you. He's in front of you. He's on your right. He's on your left. And when you make decisions, you ever like somebody invite you to do something, or you want to do something, you don't know a hadith or an ayat to support your position, but you think that is not good to do. And then in class, a month later, you get the ayat or the hadith, and you say, SubhanAllah. That's Allah elevating you. So keep in mind, always revisit who you are. I would say at minimum annually. Okay, that's the bigger picture. All right, let's go to the next slide. Keep going. I think we're up there 7. So those are on your slides, so you can have those. Okay. The next thing is what is important. We've done research in child development. By the way, before the 1940s, there were no children's rights. There was no children, nothing. You could have them as slaves on your farm. You can treat them however, because they were property of the parents. In the 1940s, there started to be theorists who developed child development theories in Europe. And then they came over to America. And in the 70s, we started having laws that are younger than 14, you can't work. Then you have to get a permit. Then you only can work them so many hours. When I started in nursing, they taught us that they used to take the babies who were neglected or abandoned in the hospital. They used to use those babies as research. One of the things that they did is that they didn't touch them. They just wanted to see what would happen to human beings if nobody touched them. Just feed them while they're in the cradle, with the bottle. Only touch them when you have to, like to change a diaper. What do you think happened to those babies? Yes. Tell me something else, because it's even more than that. They died. Human beings need human contact. They died, every single one of them. So what we found, looking at families and research, and this is Quran and Sunnah, even though I don't have a quote for you right now, is that the most important things, besides, for Muslims in particular, or people of the Abrahamic faith, people who believe in Allah, the most important thing besides the kids worshiping Allah and being good, decent human beings, is that we want them to be, anybody want to guess? If you ask a parent, what's the most important thing you want for your children, besides Allah? Besides that you want to be a Muslim, you don't want to embarrass you, right? They're not married and you see a pot belly, astaghfirullah. You don't want that, right? No embarrassment. No being a problem in the classroom. The teacher has to call you. Besides all that, we're going to put that aside. What do you think the most important thing parents want for their children? They say it's being safe and healthy. If you ask every parent across all the nations, you just want them to be safe and be happy. So one of the reasons why, looking at the bigger picture, is why we're here, is because when you argue with them, when you treat them like crap, when you demean them, they don't feel safe. So here I am, a relationship expert, doing my thing. And my parents never argued in front of me. And I'm talking to my husband, and it got to be an elevated conversation. We'll call it that. And I'm thinking I'm just having this conversation with my husband. But I got a little heated, and my son said to me later, he said, Mommy, well, you and Abby getting a divorce. How safe do you think he feels? Thinking that his house is going to be disrupted. And I was shocked, because I didn't even think it was that. I've seen some worse things. I've heard of some worse things. I was just saying my point, and I am animated, as you can imagine, and I'm passionate. So I'm just saying, I don't even realize it, but my son said that to me. So you want them to be safe. When you treat them in abusive ways, when they watch you be abusive, when they watch you do things wrong to each other and mean-spirited, they don't feel safe. Would everybody agree that's one of the things that parents want for their children? Is that right? Do we want them to be safe? So that's one of the things that you're ripping out of them with your interaction of not being kind, of being cruel, of holding grudges. You know, when you give them punishments or disciplinary actions that last about a month, that is punishment that is cruel. Not to mention that it teaches them to hold grudges. So how are they able to do in their later life, do that 3-day thing that we got? So when they do something wrong, do not take the cell phone for a whole month. First of all, you can't even keep it, you know. You ever give them a punishment, they got to stay in the house. You don't forget what they did or whatever. You forgot you did the punishment. They asked you, can I go to see you? You can go, baby. Like, you forget. That's number one. But number two, you're teaching them how to hold grudges. And then every time they do something else, you want to remind them of that thing, you hold that grudge. And then let's go to Islamic education study class and find that we're supposed to only hold it for 3 days. So when they do something they have no business doing, first of all, you set the rules early, right? Under calm, normal circumstances, as best you can. But the more you practice it, the better you get. Allah says in the Quran, whatever you want to do, He makes it easy. So if you want to be good, if you want to be kind, if you want to be merciful, Allah will make it easier. If you want to be crooked, conniving, deceitful, a liar, Allah makes that easy. And He said, and then it'll be so that you'll think it's fair seeming. Lie and truth will be equal, whichever one you need for the moment. Allah said He says that, He promises that. If you want to do that, whatever you want to do, okay? So with the kid, they do whatever they do. You say, we have rules in our household, you broke the rule, and that cell phone is a privilege. Be like the police officers. You know, when they come and give you that ticket, they're not arguing with you. You've been driving 65. No, I wasn't. Yes, you were, ma'am. They just keep writing. Well, I don't think they keep writing, ma'am. Have a safe, drive safely. When you're in charge, be in charge. And don't argue with people. Don't argue with those little people that you're in charge of. Be the leader. And then you tell them that you can't have your phone for 6 hours. It kills them, trust me. A whole day without a phone, it kills them. And then I make a condition. And you have to be nice to everybody while you're on this restriction. Because now they got an attitude, right? They walking around, they don't even talk to anybody, slam it. And if you're not, the time won't just start over. That's the rule. And then the 6 hours over, let it be. And then hug them after you tell them. Say, I love you. That's the unconditional love we want to do. Because when you don't give them love when you're mad at them, then they learn how to do that too. All right, so anyway, so the causes, what are the causes? Let's go to the causes. What's the next slide? The causes of these problems are dysfunctional families. They are failing marriages and families and communities, moral bankruptcy, staggering hypocrisy, and I just want to add, I thought I already added it, is damaged emotions. So we're coming with the baggage, and a lot of it is good, but some of it is not so good, of how we were treated, of our childhood, how our parents treated us. And sometimes it's very extreme cruelty and inhumane treatment. Sometimes it's rape, it's men and women. Sometimes it's deprivation, withholding of food. Sometimes it's giving dog food. You hear all these horrific stories about people. And then you grow up and you find Mr. Right or Mr. Wrong or somebody arranged something, and now you're married. So you got all your baggage that you thought you can just kind of like put away. It doesn't matter anymore. The time is over and I can just go on my life. Well, Orville Hendricks, he's a relationship expert, and he has a book, Getting the Love You Need. And basically he says, out of tens of thousands or even millions of people in the world, that you actually attracted to and marry the person who has the same underlying issues as you. Now, they might not surface as the same. So in other words, if somebody, for instance, has a problem with abandonment, so the husband's abandonment, his problem, it might surface as not being close. He always got to be out the house working. He doesn't spend time with the family. The wife's abandonment might be that she has a problem with trust, but the underlying issue is abandonment. And he says, he's a Christian man, and he said this is God's justice and mercy to help you deal with your problems. Because if you marry somebody who has it all together, then your stuff gets squashed and you don't get to be or blossom to be all that you can be in the world. So you get an opportunity, his point of view, and I happen to agree with it. You get an opportunity to face your stuff square in the middle, like Allah says, after difficulty comes ease, after difficulty comes ease, after difficulty comes ease. The scholars say that it's not just going through. You have to face the problem square in the face of what it really is, and when you work it through, then you get the ease. Otherwise, you just keep repeating the same problem. So these are the problems. All right, let's go to the next slide. And the solutions are healing, to heal the damaged emotions. And that's the root of what I'm saying, in addition to what everybody else is saying, that you want to get to the cause. Because a lot of us know what Allah says, right? We know what He says that we should or shouldn't do, but somehow we're not doing it. And I suggest that we are dealing from a delayed developmental stage. We're dealing from damaged emotions. We're dealing from fear. We're dealing from all these things, that damaged emotions of what we got. You know, I have a neighbor. She has 3 sons. 2 are medical doctors and 1 is an attorney. And I've known them for many years. And then the youngest one, he's a medical doctor. He's having some problems in his life. And he says to me one day, he says, you know, I just got the raw end of the deal. I always was at the window crying. I didn't know he was 6 years younger than his brothers. So often the father would take the 2 older sons out for the day, but the one that's 6 years younger than the second child was too young. Perhaps the father didn't want to deal with that age child. I'm not really sure the details or what happened, but the bottom line is, he told me many times he was at the window crying, watching them leave. And I said, and what happened? What did your mom do? He said, nothing. So imagine, a lot of times when our kids are crying, just like 10 seconds to say, oh, you feel sad? I understand. I would feel sad too. So he said he would be at the window crying. And he's a medical doctor, but he's having problems with life right now and relationships. And another reason why you want to do that, this is like a bigger picture too. Do you know we have, and there's a lot of research down in neuroscience, is that we create pathways in our brain on how to deal with things. So if you don't deal with your emotions, like Mariam said, and you hold it in, and then you're just aggressive. So every time you present it with a problem, a person who doesn't deal with their emotions and their feelings and don't connect words to those emotions, they have pathways that they engrave into their brain. And that's what they go, that's the easiest path. You know, we're told to go the easiest path, right? So your brain will go the easiest path, and that's aggression. It's sort of like if we have snow, and it's a lot of snow, and then somebody made a path, and then everybody goes to that little path, and it's just easy to go down that street because the path was made. So the blessing from Allah is that you can create new pathways. And this is why it's important for us to teach our children emotions, words with emotions. You're hurt? It's okay for boys to be hurt. And him say, yeah, I do feel hurt. Because otherwise it's going to go in that pathway of anger. He's not going to know how to connect a word with that emotion. And he'll just be aggressive. And your brain is like that. It creates pathways, and it's the easiest way to go. But you can create new pathways. So whatever our state is, whether you were raped, whether you were beat, whether you were abused, whether your parents didn't treat you right, whether you were the black sheep of the family, whatever the condition, alhamdulillah for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gives us relief. But we have to face it. We have to face it. The next, and change pattern of conduct, yes. And what is my purpose? This is another question I asked you. What's your purpose? And we talked about it a little earlier, what your purpose is. It's to serve Allah, to be a role model. Any other purposes? And to have tranquility, mercy, and compassion in this life. Jannah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I'm going to give you a deal. You surrender to me, and you give me your life, and in exchange for that, I will correct your affairs. I will forgive you your sins. You will not yearn for anything in this world or the next. Now, if that's not happiness, I don't know what is. So you want to hear, and in the next slide. Let's go to the next slide. And the common roadblocks, I talked about this already, are character flaws. If your parents, you know, Richard Pryor, he was a comedian. Anybody know Richard Pryor? He's old. Okay. Well, do you know his story? I just saw it on CNN. His father was the pimp, his mother was the prostitute. And he was raised in a brothel somewhere. That's his beginning. So we have horrific beginnings, but we can change those beginnings. So he saw lying, cheating, and stealing. What do you think he did in his life? If you tell your children to tell the truth, Allah says don't lie and tell the truth and don't hide the truth if you don't know it. But then they say they watch you telling the store clerk at the store some lie that they know is not the truth because they just was in the hallway with you when you said you was going to go in here and tell them the lie, or wherever you tell the lie, right? So we can correct those though. That's the wonderful thing. Although the Prophet said what you were outside of Islam is what you are in Islam, except if you work hard. So this is the mercy of Allah, that we can actually change the flaws. Damaged emotions, we talked about that. If you were raped or molested, and now you have problems with intimacy, you can work that through. And we think it's 1 out of every 3 women, and now we think boys 1 out of every 4, except the boys don't talk about it. They think that's like coming into their manhood, astaghfirullah. In America, I think other places too. I have some Saudi boys at my house, and I actually host people from other countries, so they have issues just like we have. So all of us have issues that require tissue, and I would just say let's have a contest, and whoever gets the most tissue wins. And if that doesn't work, we need counseling. Now, I'm a certified trauma emergency room nurse. When people get in car accidents and they break their bones, they come right near and want us to fix it. And I'm saying the psychological aspect of yourself is a part of yourself. And so you actually, and black people in particular, psych who? We didn't believe, that was a sign of weakness to need somebody. Matter of fact, when I was in nursing school, I have a person in my family who was schizophrenic that was very close to me and lived in my household and was very sweet. But when they got sick, they were very violent. And so when they would finally go to the hospital, we'd be so happy that they're gone. And we never talked about it. In my family, we didn't deal with issues like that. So we never talked about it. So now, I don't know, years later, I'm a nurse in nursing school, and I'm at Seton Hall University. And they happen to have, you had to take psych for a whole year, unlike any other program. I think there was only 3 or 4 programs in the country that required that you had a whole year of psych. Everybody else, 6 weeks, 12 weeks. So I'm in psych. I'm in this psych hospital with keys. And my teacher would have us keep a log of everything that happened. So what the client did, what we said, and then she was saying, how'd you feel? I even realized that my family didn't even deal with feelings. I used to say, well, I didn't even know what I felt. But the other thing that did come of that is that I became paralyzed because all of those emotions that I had that I bottled up, and my family used to say, I'm not angry. She's not going to bother me. I'm not even going to think. And then you ruminate about that for the whole day. But they not bothering you. That was my family. So denial and rationalization and empowering yourself with stuff that don't even give you power is what made the way my family dealt with problems. And so I couldn't function, literally. I couldn't write my care plans. I literally was physically was frozen. So I go to my teacher and I tell her that I'm having a hard time and I'm crying. And she asked me some questions. She said, well, go to student development. So I left there. You know what I said to myself? Oh, I don't need that. Do you understand? I'm not even functioning. You know what made me go? I wanted to just see what they had to offer. I wanted to see what they had. And it transformed my life. It transformed my life. So if we have the contest with our tissue issues that require tissues, and if that's not enough, I would suggest, just like you're going to go to the ER, and I'll be your nurse, and we're going to get you to OR to fix that broken hip or whatever we're going to fix. When you have that heart attack, we're going to give you the medications and give you a cardiac, or whatever you do, your holistic ways, we're going to fix that for you. I suggest you consider that. And one of the results is that delayed development. Sometimes you have 30-year-olds walking around and they're really 6-year-olds. You ever deal with people and they're just so immature and you're like, are we in high school? Yeah. And so it's a lot of that going on. And the diseases of the heart, that's a whole nother story. But a couple of them is anger, hatred, jealousy, arrogance. We get those really bad. So what I propose to you is that I want you to fill in the blank. I want to be a good, fair, just, and loving parent or wife or husband, but what stands in my way is what? And I have some paper here. If you don't have paper, somebody can just hand this out. I got little ones if you only have a few issues that require tissues. I got large ones. Okay? So I want you to write it down, please. Pass those out. Write it. You don't have to share with anybody. Keep it private to yourself. I don't need to know. It's better that I don't know, because now you can be totally honest. And the key with this one is you have to be honest with yourself. What are your real issues? When you see a person who's doing well, do you start gritting on them, thinking, looking more critical at them? What is your real issue? What is my real issue in life? Do I abuse my parental power because I'm in a nasty mood and I'm upset about something? So now my kids get it for the rest of the day and they go and say, Mommy's not in a good mood. They actually got used to it. One time we did a study with kids. It was like a quasi-study, and we asked children to tell us about their parents. We were trying to show the parents how much their children read them, and they know you, like a book. They know when you're getting ready to say, when you definitely mean no, or when you're getting ready to, right? So we asked kids. So there's one kid, we asked her, how does she know her mom? She said, well, I know my mom when she means no. I said, how do you know that, sweetie? You know what she told me? She says, Inshallah. That means no. When I say, Mommy, can we do so-and-so? Inshallah. Isn't that interesting? So write it down, please. You don't have to share with anybody. And it's for your benefit. Because sometimes the way we get rid of stuff is that we take it out. Matter of fact, we believe that. When you put it on paper and you separate yourself from it, it's easier to get rid of it. Yes, ma'am.
But isn't it healthy if you know that you're in an emotional state right now and you're saying to your kid, I'm upset right now, I need my space.
How old are they? Because if that's a 1.5-year-old, like, what are they going to do? I think there's more than one right way to do it. I think if that works for you, my point is that when they know you're like nasty to them now, you're abusive, what you said they could do yesterday, now you're taking it away, you're yelling at them. In other words, you're abusing your parental power. You're an authority over them. And because of whatever's happening in your life now, you're taking it out on them. I'm talking about that. So that's a little different. You can say that, yes.
Talking about, they know when you're not in the mood. Turn in your face. Energy is.
And what I'm saying is that I suggest, obviously, remember we talked about not being perfect. I suggest we need to find a way to deal with that. When we're fasting on Ramadan, it's not just for Ramadan, it's for our life. So when you feel like you have to do something, you have to eat, and you miss the suhoor, you don't eat because of your taqwa, right? So you know how to control yourself even though you're feeling like you're about to faint. You go take a nap. What I'm saying is that we have to find ways to go beyond that. As a professional, when patients are nasty to me, and sometimes they often are, not all the time, but a fair amount of time, I still have to be a professional. I can't get in a jousting fight, and people do that actually. I see nurses and doctors do that with the patients. So what I'm saying is I'm a professional. I'm in a professional capacity right now. So I can't vibe off of you. So that's the other question I'm going to say to you, that we have to not let vibe off our children's emotions. We have to learn how to be in control and remember Allah's promise. And his promise is true. We just have to get in line with it. So he says whatever you want to do, he'll make it easier. Just take the effort. So if you want to be a kind, loving mother, even though you're having a difficult time, you can say, sweetie, listen, Mommy, I have a lot on my mind right now, and I really need some private time right now, and I cannot engage with you. So I'm going to look at my watch, an hour. You can come back unless somebody's bleeding or not breathing. Don't come. Okay, it's okay. As opposed to, I'm in a bad mood. It's a difference, and we can control that. That's our whole life is about control. That's the blessing of Islam for me. Everything is conscious. We got to think about the time, because what time to make salah? You got to look at the moon when Ramadan's here. We can't go to Hajj. You can't go to Arafat any time during the Hajj. It's a certain day at a certain time. Everything in our life is about living consciously and making a conscious, deliberate decision about what we're about to do. And I suggest that we learn how to do that in our home. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the Prophet, kindness is the best thing you can do. Ain't nothing better than that. And I gave you a hadith about that. And Allah blesses it far more than harshness. As a matter of fact, and when you're kind, Allah brings more kindness in your house. So that's your test for yourself. Don't tell everybody. If you don't have kindness in your life, then in your home, then there's something we need to change. The other thing, simple thing is I say, when you wake up every morning, just take a barometer of how you feel. If you're always feeling crappy, then you need to change something. Because it'll go into disease later. Anyway, I'm getting off the topic. Okay, so everybody just put your stuff down, okay? Write it down. This is what you're going to change. The next one, change behaviors. Go ahead. Be the leader. I talked about that. Like the police officer, right? When he's giving you a ticket, he's not arguing with you. Don't make the rules up during calm times. Listen, we have house rules. And the rule is we're kind to each other. You're not allowed to hit your brother. And you're not allowed to hit your sister. And we don't do mean things. And you have to do your chores. And you have to do this. Whatever the rules are, these are the rules. So you separate them from you and the child. This is the rule of the house. And you get privileges. They're privileges. And privileges are things that can be taken away. If you break the rules, you're subject to having your privileges removed. And remember, 4 days, 6 hours, the time of school. They don't supposed to have phones at school, but kids take the phone. So I'll take my son's phone when he leaves in the morning, and when he comes back at 3 o'clock. Or that day, if it's a Saturday. And the rule is you got to be kind to everybody while you're under this rule. If not, the time just starts over. Well, Mommy, all these lectures we're giving where the law said, the prophet said, let them go to Islamic studies, because remember, it goes right over. You ever tell your child something, give a long, in-depth discussion about the prophet and Allah, and then turn right around, and you're like, they just hear what I said about Allah. They don't hear you. They become parent deaf. They don't hear you. So just give them the rules. That's the rule. They have to follow the rule. And you be like the police officer. You cannot connect with their emotion. Don't go where they are. Take a deep breath. That minute Mariam said, I would just say I would be that for myself. Not to my kid. Never say that to another human being. Yeah, Lord, help me. He is there. He says, just the supplicant, he don't even require, Allah don't even require that you have to be a Muslim. He says, any supplicant, I'm near. I'll give it to you. Just do it. So I do it that moment. Pull away. Don't get caught up. They all emotional about whatever. You have to pull it back because you're in charge. Just imagine yourself as a police officer who's a professional police officer. They come in and execute the law, and then they roll out. And I would suggest that you tell them that. So now when they're going to break the rules, so say they can't yell at you, because Allah says you can't even say, huh. I can't tell them what Allah said right now because they can't hear me. So you just say to them, I don't like the way you're speaking to me. It's against the rule. And I also tell them you can't be disrespectful, even if you disagree with what I say. You don't have to be in agreement. So you have to be respectful. You can't raise your voice. You can't overtalk me. Even if you disagree with me, I don't like it. It's abusive. It's against the rule, and I need you to stop. And if they don't stop, I tell them again, I say, I'm going to disengage, and I'm out. But because they need whatever they need. But they chase behind me and say, okay, you need 5 minutes. Come back when you're like nicer. Because you have to follow rules. They hear you. I'm telling all these mothers in here, you give them these long lectures about Allah, and I'm a recovering long lecture person, and sometimes I have relapses. Okay? But you have to just give them the rule. All right. Kindness. So this is what Aisha said. I told you these back. Kindness is the most effective way to attain peace in the house. Kindness. The next one. And you have those hadiths. It's really small, but if you can blow them up. The Aisha alayhi salam, Adullahu anha, she said, when Allah, the messenger said, when Allah, may he be glorified, wills some good towards the people of a household, he introduces kindness amongst them. And we know all hadiths, the best from amongst you is the kindness to your family, all those other ones. But I also have those little squares, the one where it says that it's the best thing you can do. Okay, let's go to the next one. So there's 40 recommendations. That's a book. Everybody knows that book. Okay. Yeah, go back. And then heal damaged emotions. You have to forgive yourself. You have to forgive other people. You have to give Allah. Some people are angry at Allah. You have to forgive. You have to seek help to heal. And like I said, we can do the tissue situation. You can do support groups. Or you can go to therapy. So I want you to repeat after me. And you can just utter under your voice. Think first, before we do this, think about somebody who you think has affected your life in a negative way. And this is why you have a problem. Sometimes, a lot of times, it's our parents. So sometimes our mother wasn't loving. Our father wasn't at home. He was harsh. He was harsh to our mother, whoever. And I want you to, in your forgiveness, think about this. That we're products of our childhood. So I want you to imagine that harsh person in your life, whether it's your mother, your father, whoever your caregiver was. I want you to close your eyes right now and see that person as a 5-year-old. Can you see that? Nobody's closing their eyes. Okay. Keep your eyes open and think about this. That person is only giving you what they got. So if they weren't hugged and loved, that's why you're not hugged and loved. So guess what? They don't even know how to do it. So I want you to say, I forgive, fill in the blank, so-and-so for being harsh and cold to me because they didn't know how to do anything better. So that's getting to the root. I like the root of the problem. The next thing I want you to do, and we do this, so we have these bad experiences in our childhood, then we marry people with the same problem, and now we're in this abusive relationship, a caustic relationship. And I want you to say this to yourself. Next slide, please. Oh, no. I want you to say, I forgive myself for not believing in myself, for not thinking of myself as worthy, because I'm not perfect as a woman, because I didn't know how to hold myself in esteem. If what Sister Miriam said is true, and it is true, if that's what you are indoctrinated to do, then you don't even know how to treat yourself with dignity. You don't even know how to command respect. You don't know how to do it. So then you wind up in relationships or on your job and on a lot of situations where you let people abuse you. And I want you to forgive yourself because you didn't know how to do it. And you can just learn how to do it, inshallah. I think we're at the end. So here it is. So I forgive myself or my father or whoever, I just put father in there, for not, fill in the blank, he didn't know how. The next slide. I forgive myself for not, fill in the blank, because I didn't know how. Next one. And that's it. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Yes, you have a question? Yes. Yes, go ahead. Somebody go.
If someone is like in an emotional state, like if they're worried about something, is it okay to lie? Like if they're worried something's not going to be okay, and then you know it's not going to be okay, is it okay to lie and say?
So give me an example, more specifically. Did you hear that question, everybody? No. So, okay. So tell us, but give us more specific. Repeat your question.
It's like if someone's grandmother is in the hospital and they're really sick, and then the doctor like predict that she's gonna die or something, and the person whose grandmother is, he or she is in a very emotional state, is it okay to lie and tell them like the grandmother is gonna be okay, even if you know she's not?
That's a very wise young man. How old are you? 10. That's my favorite age, by the way. What's your name? Fatim? Mateen, that's one of my favorite names too. Alhamdulillah. So did everybody hear Mateen's question? So the question was, if somebody's going to be in an emotional state and when you give them information, it's going to make them worse, is it okay to lie? And he gave the example of a person's grandmother being in a hospital and it's predicted that the grandmother is not going to make it. They're going to pass away. And you know that this person, the granddaughter or son, would take it very hard to hear that information. Is it okay for you to say to that granddaughter or grandson that your grandmother will be okay? Anybody want to answer that question? Yes.
Well, in a sense, if the person was a good practicing Muslim, they will be okay. So you're not lying, in a sense.
Okay, alhamdulillah. Anybody else? That's a good question. Yes?
I think that talking to your kids from an early age about grief and bereavement and the realities of death is not only essential, but
I think it's not only essential to talk to your kids at an early age about grief, bereavement, and the realities of death, but it's unfair to do anything other than that, to tell them that, to basically lie in this situation, or in some circumstances we make these false promises, like, this is what's going to happen to them afterward. We don't know what's going to happen to anyone after, but we do teach them about the hereafter, about heaven and hell, and so, that is more healthy for them.
Alhamdulillah. So that is, if you're coming from a healthy situation, that is ideal. But remember, a lot of us are not. So now we're in this situation. So I think, anybody else want to answer? But I think this is when I say get to the root of the problem. That's the root. You start off with that. Alhamdulillah. Anybody else want to answer? So,
Well, and like Sister said over here, what age is that granddaughter or that grandson? Because,
the age matters, yes.
Right, if they're like 6 or 7, maybe it would be better to kind of, not like, but embellish the truth.
Well, Allah knows best. What I would say to that, I know Allah knows best. I was a brand new nurse. I think this is in the 80s, early 80s. I was a brand new nurse, and I had this patient who I just took to. She's just a fine lady. Came in with the excruciating headache, the worst headache of her life. Came in, we were going to do a CAT scan and an MRI. So she said she was afraid. And I said to her, and we told never to do this. Never tell the patient that they're going to be okay. But I just felt like I wanted to console her. So I said to her, you're going to be fine. I'm going to be right next to you. I'm going to be there, because she was so sick. I worked in the step-down neurosurgical unit, and I had to go with her for the test. The patients are really sick. The nurses have to go. So I went with her, and I was by her side, and I was telling her she'll be fine. I'll be right there. And she actually coded on the table and never recovered. And I had so much guilt that I promised her something that I couldn't promise. So I understand you wanting to do that. And Allah knows best. And sometimes we have to make real-time decisions. I would say that you avoid the question. I would say something like, Subhanallah, Allah knows best. We will do for her all that we can do. And that we can do for her is we can pray for her, we can fluff her pillow, we can be by her side, we can recite the Quran. We don't know. We have a circumstance of a brother in this community. The doctors wanted to pull the plug. This is about a month and a half ago. And he's actually getting better. We don't know. So that's what I would do. I wouldn't lie. And that's my personal journey. So because of that, I'm like etched. It's in my brain. I talk about those pathways. It's etched in my brain that I cannot make false promises because I felt so guilty. But I would say, only Allah knows the future. And there are miracles, and we're just going to pray for her. That would be my answer. But Allah knows best, alhamdulillah. Anybody else? We have to go. Okay, alhamdulillah. No more questions. We will have question and answers on the panel after lunch. Thank you so much. Alhamdulillah.